Thank you for joining us with the Pro Design Builder podcast, a show where professionals and entrepreneurs share their stories, strategies, and secrets to building a thriving business and a successful life. I'm Sam, your host, as we dive deep into the world of life experiences and entrepreneurship. Before we get started, I'd just like to thank our sponsors. The Pro Design Builder is a coaching and consulting firm for real estate investors who want to build spec homes and multifamily units. The Pro Design Builder is not just about building a business, it's about building a vision and a life by design. As you know, foster care is a mission that's near and dear to my heart. The work in foster care is never over. If you ever feel led to give to our foster care initiative, feel free. There'll be a link in the description as well. As you know, that I am a active foster dad. I've had a number of kids through our home. I've adopted twins. So the mission is I'm the boots on the ground when it comes to foster care work. So without further ado, just want to introduce our guest. Joe Hoffman is a motivational speaker. He wants to help. His mission is to help people with and depression, anxiety, and street life mentality. So I just want to say thank you for coming on today. I know you had a pretty action-packed day today. So thank you for coming on.
Amen. Thanks for having me.
So if you don't mind, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you're located, a little bit about what you do, etc.
Right on. I'm from Siggeville, Texas, a little town in southeast Dallas County. Currently live in Hoffman. I am a roofing salesman, primarily specializing in commercial roofing now. Started off doing residential, been in door-to-door sales for over 17 years and sales in general for over 2 decades.
Okay, cool. So we typically like to start at the very beginning and really try to get to know and understand people's stories and kind of, what makes them tick. I really truly feel strongly about knowing the beginning because, we can connect the dots moving backwards, but we can't connect it moving forward. So, what were you like as a kid?
Man, I was pretty I wouldn't say high strung, but very active. Loved to play sports, was really big into pee wee football. That was my thing. I was the kid drawing plays after I got finished with my schoolwork, X's and O's. I love sports. I thought that's what I was gonna do growing up. My stepfather, he was a very adamant sport fan, and he was the guy that I was the kid that ran laps before practice and after practice. So make sure I never got tired. And I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed being the hardest working person in the room, as a kid. Um, really wasn't easy as far as like growing up. My mom and dad broke up when I was really young. They had a very rough and rocky relationship. My dad left when I was 4. He was an alcoholic. Um, My mom wasn't the type of person to necessarily drop her pride or be in Christ. So very quickly after my dad left, whenever I was 4, she introduced me to my stepdad, and all of a sudden, hey, he's your dad. My dad stopped coming around, and I'll never forget waiting out the window, waiting for my dad to show up and come pick me up on the weekend. He did it from about 4 to 7, and then all of a sudden, I'm calling, nobody answers. He never comes. Um, which I got to repair my relationship with my dad later on. But just as a young boy, not having your father come, like that was my first real feeling of abandonment, after he initially left. So my stepdad was pretty abusive. And I used to get whoopings like most people get whooped with a belt or something. I got whooped with a very large paddle, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I was expected to make straight A's. If I made a B, it means I was probably going to get beat. So those high expectations just really it helped me in a way, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But then in a lot of other ways, it created a lot of deep seated trauma and a lot of things I'm still working on to this day to try to basically reprogram, I'm learning more about the spiritual side of how to beat all that. But yeah, I was pretty much a straight A kid. I was the last kid of my group of friends that actually cussed. You know what I mean? They were all cussing
Mhm.
when we got about 12, 13 years old. And I was
Mhm.
like, hold on, I can't do that, So up until I was about 12 years old, I was pretty much the straight laced kid that, was kind of rough, rugged, might, get in little fist fights here or there. Um, but I wanted to be good, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so at about 12 years old is whenever it kind of started going downhill in my mind. I kind of felt like nobody loved me. So I started smoking weed. I started doing inhalants. My mom caught me huffing gasoline and she
Oh
put me in
wow.
a mental institution whenever I was 12 years old. And that was an experience. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's some crazy people in there. So just the feeling of my mom putting me in there was like deep devastation, like betrayal, like no other.
Mhm.
So it really caused a lot of internal pain. My mom, my dad's gone. My mom don't want me. I just felt like nobody wanted me. But in there, that's whenever my Pee Wee football coach, he always talked about Jesus, but I never really went to church to know what it was all about. So in there, my Pee Wee football coach came up to see me, and on his shirt, he had John 3:16, and he
Mhm.
started telling me about the gospel. And so I was very curious, and while I was in there, this old lady, she was telling me how Jesus had power of all these angels to come down and get him off the cross. And
Mhm.
me being a young masculine man, I'm thinking, well, why didn't he? What's wrong with he just gonna let him beat him up and kill him? But what's wrong with him? Why would he do that?
Yeah.
And she just looked at me and she just tapped me on my hand and she was like, he did it for you, baby. He did it
Yeah.
for you.
Mhm.
So that started my spiritual journey with God, and that's whenever I decided to believe in Him, and I became saved. And I was going to a little church from about 13 to 15, but the flesh was strong, man. I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really have any spiritual mentors. All my role models were, doing drugs and partying and all that kind of stuff. So I just kind of thought that was the thing to do. So I was 15. I got in a fight with another kid, got locked up, ended up getting locked up for misdemeanor possession of marijuana, and ended up doing 3 years while I was locked for those charges. I got sent to a place in San Antonio. I was there about 3 months, and I got jumped in the bathroom and hit with a steel pole, and my nose was over here. And my
Oh
mom didn't
wow.
come for 4 days, and that was like I just felt so alone, But I knew that God was with me. I could feel Him. I'd be praying and just very traumatic things. I was the only white kid in most of those places, so
Yeah.
I was called all kinds of racist names, constantly had a fight, get picked
Mhm.
on. But God did all those things to build me and create who I am now. So went to another placement over in West Texas called High Frontier. After I got out of there, I violated probation after like a month. I did 6 months, went to West Texas. It was more of like a group program, help. It was way out in the middle of the desert in West Texas. So they didn't have any fences because if you ran, you was just in the middle of the desert.
Mhm.
So I did well there until it was about time to come home. And then I had a big fight with my mom and very emotional. And I decided to run off from there with my roommate, and there was females there too. And so I ran from there, and we were gone for about a day, and they got the helicopters out to find us. And there was a house off in the distance, and my buddy was like, "Let's go in the house." I was like, "I ain't going in that house, man. That's a felony charge. I'm not. You go ahead."
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so he did, and they end up, getting a lot more charges than I did. And they sent me after that. They sent me to a place called Glen Mills. It's the oldest reform school in the nation. It's up in. They sent me all the way from Texas, all the way up by Philadelphia.
Mhm.
And most of the time, when you're in juvenile, the staff they don't put their hands on you unless you're trying to hurt yourself or hurt
Mhm.
somebody else.
Yeah.
But in Glen Mills, if you sucked your teeth, rolled your eyes, or didn't
Oh,
listen,
geez.
whatever their rules were, these
Yeah.
dudes were all ex athletes. I mean, they were huge, big guys, and they would
Mhm.
literally beat the kids up. They would
Mhm.
restrain them. I seen dudes get their whole face tore off with carpet burn.
Oh
And then
wow.
they would tell the judge, the PO, and the parents that the kid who ever sucked his teeth did something really minor, that he tried to escape or something like that.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that was definitely a crazy experience. I was in there for like a year, and I had some very good mentors in there. You know, there was some bad people, but there was some good people. There was a man named Wayne Gibbs that I seen his self control. And whenever he had to deal with the children, instead of getting mad at them and things like that, whenever they, you know, most of the time he would have been justified getting angry by the way they was acting. But I seen his self control, and I was like, that's the fruits of the spirit right there. Like, I hope I can have that one day.
Hmm.
Um, so I eventually got out of there. As soon as I got out, I was out for like 2 weeks, and you know, I wanted to smoke bud, and my couple of my friends wanted some bud, so I got some for them. And my mom found an empty baggie and some old school hanging scales, and she's like, "Oh, you're a drug dealer," and kicked me
Oh,
out.
geez.
So
Hmm.
2 weeks out of juvenile, got kicked out of the house. Didn't really know what I was doing. Went and ran around the streets and started selling methamphetamines for a while. Then I got a job selling cell phones. So finally found a way to make some legal money with that. After that, I got my first DWI, man. Took a Xanax, never took a Xanax before, woke up in jail with a DWI. Didn't even know how I got in there. When they bonded me
Oh.
out, I had on different clothes. I didn't even know whose clothes. I was like, these aren't my clothes. They're like, yeah, you are. Apparently I had bought them. I didn't even remember.
Hmm.
Um, so it was just after that, man, I just really got into the street life. I started selling drugs all the time. I thought that the only way that I could be successful was by selling drugs. You know, where I came from, everybody either worked and they had a little bit of money, and the only people that had a lot of money were drug dealers.
Yeah.
So I backslid with Christ for a little bit, and then when I was 19, long story short, I had caught a charge that I didn't know how long I was going to be in there, what kind of charge or how serious it was going to be. And for 3 months, I sat in jail for 3 months, not knowing, not talking to a lawyer, not knowing if I was going to get 50 years, 5 years, what's going on. And I got really, really close to God. I was in the Bible every day. You know, you're in jail, you don't have all the temptations the same way. You know that you're going to get fed, you know, your bills are going to get paid. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit easier, but I got really deep into the word, and my spiritual bond with God was so deep, and I felt joy in that place. I felt joy and happiness even though I was in jail, and I was like, God, whatever this is, even I don't care if I have to sit in jail, man, whatever this is, this relationship, this joy I feel with you right now, I don't
Hmm.
ever want that to go away.
Yeah.
So then when I got out, I remember holding my Bible out. My buddies were standing out by the street, and I was holding my Bible out the window. But sure enough, you know, a few weeks go by, I had did some bad things that I very much regretted, and that guilt of that, the the enemy, the flesh, it kept telling me that I'm not worthy, and you're not really a Christian. You're not that stuff. You better get back out there in the streets. And I eventually did, and then that's whenever I started selling drugs big time, and I caught a felony charge, possession with intent to distribute. And by the grace of God, instead of going to prison, I got probation. By the grace of God, while I was on probation, I violated. I didn't report. I caught another charge. I didn't report for 6 months. I went in front of the judge on an open plea. My lawyer was Walter Knowles, Beyonce Knowles' uncle, and he was like, "The only way you're getting out is on an open plea." And I spent most of my life in the system. Like, you don't want to do an open plea. Like, that's the last thing you want to do, because
Hmm.
typically, especially in Texas, you're going to get more time than what they first gave you. As a matter of
Explain
fact,
explain an open plea to me,
so
please.
an open plea means that you're going in front of the judge at his mercy. There's not an agreement between the DA, like they have the deals where they give plea bargains. It's
Yep.
There's no agreement. It's just you're going in front of the judge, and whatever he wants to give you, he can give you. My charge held 5 to 99. It was a felony one. So if he wanted to give me 99 years, he could have gave me 99 years.
Hmm.
And there's no way to know. It's completely up to the judge. So
Yeah.
it's pretty much you're at the mercy of the judge. And so I was so scared, but as I was walking around the cell, 5 people came in. All of them got more time than they were originally offered. They were going in front of open pleas. And as I was walking around the cell, I heard, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil." And my hair stood up. It still gives me goosebumps to this day. And I was like, "Stop playing with me, God! Like, you for real?"
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm again, and I hear it louder again. "Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil." And so I was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna risk it." And so I
Mm-hmm.
went in front of the judge. Long story short, he let me out. I was able to beat the case I had pending and get off probation, and made it off probation and never went to prison. So I was probably about 25 doing that. Um, During the process from 22, I started selling steaks. And so before that, when I was selling dope, I decided to stop in '07, and I didn't have nothing. I didn't have anything. I couldn't make any money. I walked around and slept on people's couches, their garage. I slept in on park benches, all kinds of stuff because I refused to sell dope. And eventually I found a job where I was selling steaks and seafood and chicken and pork door to door. And it
Mm-hmm.
was able to provide an income. Sometimes I'd make as much in a day as I would in a whole week at a construction job or something.
Yeah.
So that provided an avenue for me to be able to learn a lot about sales and be able to take care of myself. You know, back in 2008, I didn't have a license. It was the middle of a recession. I really didn't have too many other choices. And I was like, man, I'll go knock on doors, literally knock on doors and selling food out of a freezer out of the back of a pickup.
Mm-hmm.
But I was willing to do whatever it took rather than, do the street life, rather than rob people or sell drugs. And this whole time's God's working on me, showing signs. I'd have times where I get closer and times where I'd fade away. But I never stopped believing. I was just like, man, I'm a sinner.
Never
I got
go. Yeah.
problems.
And falling. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was probably like, um, let's see, about 2018, I had stopped. I wanted to become a professional boxer because I was like, man, I got to make all this pain in my life. I feel like I had to make it mean something. And the whole
Mm-hmm.
time I was trying to give glory to myself. I thought that I had to give glory to myself. So I stopped working in my regular job and I went and got a job working or stopped selling food and making good money. And I went and got a job washing cars, barely making it by. And that's whenever I met my wife, and she really helped calm me down. Before that, while I was selling meat, I had developed a very bad Xanax addiction. I was taking like up to 10 Xanax a day. And the withdrawals from that were like everybody who I talked to ever did drugs, they say Xanax is the worst of the worst, especially as many as I was taking. So I had seizures coming off that. But in the middle of those Xanax withdrawals, boy, I got close to God because it's really hard to say no. And it takes so much faith because the whole time you feel like you're just gonna die. Like for the first 3 days, you're just full of fear because that's what the Xanax do. They take the fear away. You don't have them, and then it's just like spidey
Then it's
senses
here.
going
Yeah.
crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's on top of you.
Um,
Yep.
so God put me through all that. I eventually got with my wife, and man, we're both. She wasn't in Jesus. I believed in Jesus, but I wasn't walking in the Spirit. And long story short, after we had a rough couple years, we had a baby, and Hazel, my youngest, and she had two stepchildren. The whole time, God's working on me. He's working on me. He put me in a position to be a leader. He put me in a position to be a stepfather. And that's whenever I was like, man, I really got to get it together. So after, I don't know, about a year of being together, I stopped drinking. After drinking my whole life, I stopped drinking. And for 22 months, I was sober. And so that's whenever I started Underground Motivation. Um, I was walking out of a gas station one day, man, and this random guy, I thought he was a bum. I kind of glanced at him and didn't really make any contact, didn't say hi, nothing. I thought he was a bum. I was getting in my truck and he tapped me on the shoulder. I was like, oh, here he goes asking for money. But all he said, hey, man, you have an amazing testimony and people really need to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And he just handed me like a pamphlet to some church somewhere, some little old church somewhere. And he didn't say anything else and he walked off. And so, I was like, man, I really felt like that was God talking to me. Another time, one of my buddies' dad died, and at the funeral I spoke, and another buddy comes up and he's like, "Hey man, you ever thought about public speaking? Because that was really good." And so basically all these points in life, whenever I was locked up when I was 19, I was watching, whoever on TV, the preaching channels, and God was in my mind telling me, "I want you to do that." And I'm like, dude, I'm a punk kid from the trailer park. Like, who's gonna listen to me, dude?
Yeah.
So anyways, he's been working on me, man. And whenever I got with my wife, that was a whole different, like, I had been working on myself a little bit before that, as far as like self-help, all that kind of stuff, reading books. I got into Think and Grow Rich, and my
Mm-hmm.
mentor, my buddy who used to be my best friend on Xanax back in like 2016, he changed his life. But he had a spiritual awakening. He didn't tell me about spiritual stuff. He was just telling me about the mental stuff. So I
Yeah.
really started working on reading books, changing the way I think. But then when I got in a relationship, it wasn't just me I was dealing with. So I was in a whole nother world, and that self-control that I thought I had, that went out the window.
Yeah, because you're
Um,
you're 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 put in a very emotional state, and you at that time you didn't know that both of you guys are bringing a level of baggage to the table that you got to kind of sift through, right, and
and then,
manage and replace and work out and stuff like that. But go ahead.
yeah, so sorry, it's long, man. I get confused. It's been a crazy life. I need to put it all
No,
in
no, no. You're
sequential
good. You're good.
order.
You're good. You're good. You're good. No, go, go, go.
So
Let
we
the
end up
fire.
having, I had my two stepchildren. I didn't have any kids yet. And I went in this little church my buddy used to take me to, that his friend's a pastor, that he pretty much funds it himself. I mean, they play like an old school piano, like old school worship music, like really old school type church. But, I still liked it. And I was in there. I went by myself one day and I was praying. I was like, Lord, I want a piece of me on this earth. But Stephanie, she wasn't willing to commit to that until all my financial situation was straight, and then my mental, so our relationship situation was straight. And so I went in the church and I was like, Lord, help me get everything straight, because I want a piece of me in this, Lord. I want a child, like, help me get my life together. I really, really want a piece of me in this world. Well, instead of getting my head together, my wife was on birth control. She still got pregnant anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when my first child came, and that's whenever I really decided to get sober. That's whenever I made Underground Motivation, and man, it really meant something to me to help people, like to help people get sober. As I was battling, I was reading, all these different books and just searching through all the different things that I went through, and that the same excuses and things, same ways I would think, and the people would really resonate. They're like, man, how do you know this? How do you know that I'm thinking that? Or how do you know I'm feeling? And I'm like, dude, I was right there too. But what I found is I was really scared to tell people about Jesus, like just represent him, Jesus, 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 because I was still cussing and different things like that. And I didn't feel like I was an appropriate person, but maybe I could just plant a seed. And so that's what the warrior of the light is all about. Jesus Christ is the light. So I would try to like sneak it in there. I'm like, hey, I ain't pushing it on you guys. Y'all can do whatever you want. This is what I believe, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
perfect. And what I found was is every single person I tried to help, I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't help them. I couldn't have any foundation to help them whatsoever without talking about God. Like if they
Mm-hmm.
refused to believe in Jesus or they didn't have
Yeah,
any foundation in Christ, I was
yeah.
completely stumped. I
Mm-hmm.
did not know how to help them.
Yeah.
And so eventually I got into a fight with me and my old lady. We broke up, and I stayed strong for probably about the first 3 months. And man, I was outside of my single dad apartment, separate apartment,
Mm-hmm.
my mattress on the floor and stuff, and I'm looking out, and right outside of my apartment was a giant Coors Light sign,
Mm-hmm.
billboard, huge billboard, light up like big as day. It's all I could see. And eventually, man, I gave in. I gave in, and I didn't feel worthy, and I gave in to everything negative, and I, wanted to self sabotage, and I started drinking again. Um, so after that, I just felt like just a giant piece of crap, because it's like, who am I? I done told all these people how to, be sober, help them get sober, but I done messed up too. And I really didn't ever give myself grace. At the time, I didn't understand the spirit, he's taught me now about grace, and I didn't understand how to give myself grace. I didn't understand that I needed to let Jesus do it for me. I was always trying to do it myself. Joel's going to fail. Um, so after that, we had another child. We were going back and forth for like 2 years. I got like 4 different apartments and houses, and we go back and forth. And the last time that we broke up, she wound up getting pregnant. And God, one time we was broken up, I don't remember if she was pregnant already. I think maybe no, she wasn't. Before she got pregnant with Gracie, my baby, my second child, um, I was like, I didn't know how to make it right with her. I didn't really know how to have a good relationship with Stephanie. But I realized that I never forgave her at all. Like I held everything, all of our fights and everything that she did, I held it against her. And I never truly forgave her. And what God spoke to me, he was like, you didn't forgive her the way that I forgave you. You didn't give her grace. Like you didn't give her any of that. And I realized, like, how am I ever supposed to break out of this negative mentality? Like, how am I ever supposed to not be mad at her if I don't really forgive her? So we've started our relationship over again, and she humbled herself. She dropped her pride, and she wasn't a believer in Jesus like that. She went to church, but one day I prayed with her, and I was like, God, just show her the same way you showed me how real you are. And he eventually did. So she started getting in the word. She started dropping her pride. So we got pregnant. She got pregnant with Gracie. We found out she had Down syndrome. Whenever she was a paralegal making good money, whenever her boss found out that the baby had Down syndrome, he said, you ought to have an abortion.
Oh wow.
Like, yeah. So about 4 to 6 weeks later, after she just helped him win a couple big trials, he found a really dumb reason. I think she worked for him for like 15 years. Found a really dumb reason to fire her. So there I was. I got two stepchildren, baby on the way, my other kid. I got to take care of everything by myself. And God has continued to provide so many times. He's just done it. So we had Gracie. We went through her having Down syndrome. Whenever she first came, she was in NICU for a week, and they told us that she had some kind of blast, but they were like, they're not cancerous, but you got to keep an eye on it. And I just had so much going on. For some reason, I just thought, I guess I was spoiled from God answering so many of my prayers. So, like, when I first found out that she might have Down syndrome, I'm like, not even worried about it. I'm like, nah,
Mhm.
God ain't going to do that to me. I'm good. Then she did. And I was like, oh, crap. So, I think she was a little less than a year old, maybe a year old, just turned a year old. No, maybe about 10 months old, Gracie was. And then that's whenever they told us that she had leukemia.
Mm.
So I had just went on a nice little streak selling roofs, and everything came to a stop. Um, she had to go 35 days at a time for her chemo treatment, and they get to come home 7 days. She had 20% of leukemia in her bone marrow. So after the first round, she only had less than 1%. So it went from them telling us that we're going to go through 8 or 9 rounds of it to now only 4 or 5. So during this whole time, I'm having to struggle because we live like an hour and a half away from the hospital. So I'm like, we're not going to live all over here. And I was in a short-term rental. I was like, there's
Mhm.
no point of us living an hour and a half away. Let's figure something else out. And literally, my money was going fast. I wasn't making money. I was so messed up for the first 3 weeks. And then after the first 3 weeks, maybe first month, um, literally, I lost my house, or I pretty much gave it up. We put everything in storage. I was staying in an Airbnb over. They had a place called Ronald McDonald House where they let me and Hazel stayed while my wife stayed at the hospital full time. And I didn't know what I was gonna do, man. I was fighting very bad depression, and eventually, I got to a point to where I'm such a fervent prayer, crying, bawling my eyes out with my face on the floor, and I just said I'm a walk in faith. So that was still during the first round, and God put it on my heart, just have faith. So I was able to pick myself up. I was able to put that smile back on my face, and go perform, and with my family and everything, pretend like nothing's wrong. No fear. We're going to run this. And then she kept getting better and better and better. Then all the cancer went away. So she was on round 4, literally 2 weeks from coming home. Cancer gone, everything. They have to keep her for 35 days after the chemo treatment to monitor in case she gets sick. Well, 2 weeks left, she gets a RSV virus. She has to get on put on oxygen. The oxygen that didn't work, so they had to intubate her. Then that didn't work, so then they had to put her on a machine called ECMO, and so she's pretty much been on life support for over 100 days now. She might end up breaking the record for ECMO for the lungs. What that does is her lungs wasn't working well enough, and it's a machine that filters the blood of carbon dioxide and puts oxygen back in the blood. Um, so first 3 weeks on that, about the first month, man, I'm mad. I'm mad at the medical system. I'm mad. I'm just struggling, dude, and wasn't making any money. Like, I mean, we had to start a GoFundMe. Um, and still, like, the way that my money's been coming in, I got blessed right before it happened. I got a couple roofs, and I was able to make enough money to get another house. And man, I thought everything was going to be okay, and I got hit hard again. And I wasn't expecting it, as I was expecting to be able to go back to work. And the way it's financially set up, like, I was barely struggling. So we had a GoFundMe. People started donating to that to where I could get by, and it really showed me, like, man, if I felt the love, because
Mhm.
I'm not really the guy to reach out for that kind of stuff,
For sure.
But when all the people donating, and then it was like every time God was like, "See, I got you. See, I got you. See, I got you." It's like fourth quarter Tom Brady style. Every time there's 2 seconds left, he got me. Even
Mhm.
right now, man, it's still happening. I'm still waiting on checks coming in that, things go wrong that I can't control. And, I have to walk in faith and go do whatever he puts in front of me or whatever blessings he gives me. And I know eventually it'll stop. But after the first, I asked God, why did you do this? How could you let this happen to my baby? And 2 months later, this is the answer he gave me. He said, and it still gives me goosebumps. He said, how do you think I feel whenever I let my son be on that cross? And then I thought, how did Jesus feel knowing he was part of God, the Almighty, to sacrifice himself and to go through all that? Because anything we go through, Jesus had it worse. And
Yep.
then the Father had to sit there and watch his son go through all that pain,
Mhm.
So they just put it on me, and I was like, well, I guess I just have to take it, because he had it worse. Um, and so God just started putting different spiritual teachers in my life that's really been humbling me and teaching me in the spirit. And that it's not all about my flesh. And what he showed me with the motivational videos and everything, that I was trying to tell everybody what Joel can do good. Hey, follow me. Look what I can do. I'll teach you how to work out. I'll teach you how to read books. I'll teach you how to play a musical instrument. All these things to get sober and
Yep.
all these things to change your life. And I
Mhm.
wasn't telling them about Jesus.
Yep.
And so that's where I'm at right now with it, man. Just trying to still stay strong, learn every day, and trying to put the old me on the cross, and just bow down and be humble and just keep trying to learn, but then keep trying to inspire and motivate and just try to be a shining light. And I'm like, so what happened was with this time, how I gained my faith back, I was asking God, first I said the prayer, I had my faith, and then I said, God, I want to see Jesus. Just show me how he is so I can be like him. Show me. Just I was meditating. I was like, just let me visualize it so I can have a piece of that, so I can put a smile back on my face and have that joy and hope. And instead of showing me Jesus, he showed me myself laughing. He showed me myself playing with kids. He showed me myself speaking to other people and speaking life in them, tell them about Jesus, all these little things. And I was like, that's the Jesus in me, you know what I mean? And that's where it out, because all those things that comes from him. That's him inside of me working through me and being joyful, because Joel really wants to be depressed. Joel, my flesh, he really wants to be angry, and everything good. It all comes from Jesus and God. So that's what he dawned on me, man. And so here I am. I'm able to most days put a smile on my face. I'm able to walk around like nothing's wrong. And I'm walking around Like everything's gonna be okay. And Gracie slowly but surely has consistently got better. Her heart stopped. She stopped getting blood on one side, and the only reason that she survived is because she was born with a small hole in her heart, and it allowed it to shunt. And then all of a sudden, it started working again. The doctors couldn't understand it. The blood pressure medication that they have her on in the ECMO machine is very bad for her liver, and she was getting very bad jaundice. She was super yellow, and like all her gut was really big, like a balloon, and all these things were going wrong. And whenever God gave me the faith, and it's nothing through me, it's all him. Whenever God gave me the faith, then it started changing. Then all of a sudden her liver started working right. All of a sudden everything starts getting better. And their doctors are like, well, I don't know why her liver's working right. And I can tell you why, Jesus Christ. So she's still on life support, man. Just the other day she picked up a toy and shook it for the first time. Um, so it's been a beautiful thing. It's been very tough to go through everything, but I'm very grateful at the same time because I know that God's strengthening me, and I pray that He keeps strengthening me. And I've learned and completely bowed down to the fact that I'm nothing but His vessel, and anything I do good, He does it for me. It's Jesus
Yeah.
through me.
Yeah, you definitely, you know, have a very, very powerful story. You know,
Thank you.
I didn't realize, how many, hurdles that you kind of had to kind of go through. And but one thing that I'll tell you and I'll share with you is, this imperfection, is a gift, right? And I didn't realize that in my story, in my imperfection, how that was a gift as well, and how God is glorified through a lot of these challenges. So as you are speaking and kind of sharing your story, it a lot of it does resonate with me. I wrote down quite a few areas that resonate with me, and I know it definitely resonates with a lot of people as well. So the ability to share your story, and from such a deep place, and in a vulnerable place, allows people to really kind of connect. And that was something that I had to learn through time as well. I just really literally just didn't speak to people at all, right?
Amen.
I thought that I was alone in my feelings or in my experiences and stuff like that. And that's why I decided to launch this podcast, because it allows people to share these parts of them that are not alone, right?
Amen.
Obviously for us, we're believers, so we have the understanding that we've never been alone, right? He's equipped us a certain type of way, and he's always uh, in us and with us. So it's just beautiful to for you to kind of be able to share like that. Doesn't mean that it's easy, because you've gone through a lot of struggle. And for me, because I do a lot of work in the foster care realm, the challenges are just baked in, right, from the jump, right? If I share parts of the story of of the twins, like it was just kind of just baked in, right? Dad died before they were born, mom homeless, stripper, pregnant while with them. And it's just sometimes it's a mess, but we don't see the whole story until kind of later, right? So you being able to speak your story and share is moving for sure. I just wanted to make sure that I shared that.
I
So
appreciate that, man.
yep, yep, yep. So who would you say had the biggest impact on you, growing up?
Growing up, man, I was a grandma's boy. Shoot, she's
Hmm.
tattooed on my arm now. And the reason why is because she just had this love for me. Like she gave me that physical touch. She treated me like I was special, and not just like, get him out of my hair, Um, that was definitely the biggest impact on me. Then I'd say my coach Orville, my Pee Wee football coach, man, but just being, I mean, he's a big guy, dude, like 6'3", big, used to play offensive lineman, just big
Hmm.
guy, tough looking guy, beard. You'd think, man, that dude probably chews nails and probably spit me out if I made him mad.
Yeah.
But he loved Jesus, dude, and he still is. He's so humble. He's so loving. He has such a loving heart, and he would go out of his way to show me love. I would go stay the night at his house, and he was just. It wasn't like my parents where it was like a snap thing and like, oh my God, I'm in fear, I'm about to get hurt. Like with
Yep.
him, I felt more safe. Like this dude isn't gonna hurt me. He's here to protect me, even though he'll get on to me, even though he'll push me, like in practice, and he expects a lot out of me and all
Yep.
that kind of stuff. Like I could just see the Jesus in him. And so for him to come up there whenever I was 12, and I'm not his kid, he drove all the way an hour away to come see me. Um, man, that was it meant a lot to me. So I think those are probably the two biggest people, just because my stepdad, he wasn't, he was just really mean, you know.
Hmm.
I remember getting my head put through the sheetrock whenever I was like 12 years old because I accidentally left the key in the door.
Hmm.
Um, so I looked up to my big brother a lot, but I didn't know that what he was. I thought he was like, he's a football player, he's all these things, but I didn't realize the spiritual side of it. And I had no idea. So man, I really just didn't have a lot of people after that, dude. It was, um, I was whenever I was out in them streets, boy, I was looking up to Tony Montana. That's who I
Yeah.
thought I wanted to be. But as Jesus, I learned about God whenever I was in that jail cell, dude. Whenever I had a Bible, a mat, and the concrete brick walls around me.
Hmm.
So it was just a different experience as far as like having a steady mentor there. They'd send us to church. If you wanted to go to church in juvenile, you go almost every day. There's different preachers, different denominations.
Hmm.
There was some strong men while I was in juvenile, but I think the person that had the biggest impact would probably be my best friend after, we got older. And, that's not my childhood, but when we got older, because he was a bar tard like me on them Xanax and wild
Yeah.
and everything else. And he had this spiritual awakening. He really changed. Like I got in the car with him, like, what's up, man? We gonna go chase women, we going to the bar,
Hmm.
what are we doing? He's like, no, I don't cheat on my wife. I don't cheat anymore. I don't drink like that anymore. And I was like, okay. He used to have the worst road rage you could possibly imagine. And we're driving down the
Hmm.
road, and this lady cuts him off really bad. And I'm thinking, oh boy, here he goes.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, lady, you got it. And I was like, who are you, bro? Who are you?
That's
Because you're
funny.
not the
That's
same
funny.
person, man.
Yeah.
So he really, he gave me that example, and then it was all Jesus. That's Jesus through him. And then God's been constantly like, he's like, dude, your relationship that you have with me in your head, that needs to be everywhere else too. Like the same way you call out, everything else. So I've just been constantly trying to get back more in the Bible and anything. So everybody who's followed Christ and represented him and played an impact in my life, there's a lot of them. That's my answer to that.
No, for sure. I mean, God used imperfect people and imperfect stories, all the time to, connect and reach to people that he's supposed to, right? So I
Amen.
truly, truly, truly feel that way. So, when I look at my own story and how imperfect it was, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now in foster care if I didn't have those layers of imperfection, right? This is where he's kind of guided me, and this is where he's leading me and leading other children and people that have imperfect lives, right?
Heck
So
yeah.
I'm a trench guy, right? I was born in the trenches. I do my work in the trenches, and I absolutely love it,
I
right?
love
Just
that.
to see the level of fruit that I get to see on a regular basis, get to see kids improve, get to see kids really have uh, a real childhood, right? I'm kind of like getting to, in a lot of ways, live vicariously through them, like watch them kind of just be kids and be safe and be, not have to worry about, a lot of the mess that life throws. So, from that standpoint, I wouldn't probably be as passionate if I didn't have, the types of experiences that I did. So yeah, he uses imperfect people, imperfect stories, all the time.
Kids are tougher than adults. So you're doing something
Yeah.
major.
They are. They are, but they're good, man. They're really, really good kids, and just see kind of like who they, truly are. They love God. That was the one thing. I remember my mom, shared with me, one day. She was just like, I just remember this conversation. She's like, Sammy, we're poor, we don't have a lot of money, we don't have much, but the most important and the best thing that I could do is introduce you to Jesus and have that introduction. So she felt, and for some reason that resonated with me, that was the most important thing that she could give me, is make that introduction. So I was one of the kids that always just paid attention to life, paid attention to situations, and that was a nugget that she dropped on me. So for me, the most important thing that I can do is make that introduction, to my kids, and they are, they're living it, kind of like how I seen my parents live it. And that's probably be the best nugget that I can give any parent is, live it like truly.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. So you've been through a lot of different challenges, and it's actually, I was just on with a dude named Eric Stevens. I highly recommend that you check out that interview, because we talked about several things. One of the things that we talked about is mental health, and also renewing your mind,
Amen.
right, and replacing some of these experiences, right, with obviously with the word. But how would you say your mental health is doing through all of these challenges?
So I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder whenever I was 13 or 12 or whatever. So I've never like taken pills. I don't. I've been in bipolar groups and they're like, they kicked me out because I told them I don't take pills. They're like, you can't make it without that. You're crazy, dude.
Hmm.
Anyways, my mental health has been like I've been at war. That's what I feel like. That's what I talk about with my wife, is that it's like PTSD. Every day you like something's wrong, and I mean, there's times I can't even go up to the hospital, man, because I'm so on edge. Every time I walked out of the hospital room, and I had to leave. So whenever she was on chemo the first time, or the whole time she was on chemo, my wife had to stay there every time. So I'm leaving out after seeing them every day. Got to leave them there, go home and take care of me and my 4-year-old, and she's 5 now. And it felt like everything was on fire around me, like if I was in a movie and it was just hell burning around me. Um, so I have a lot of techniques that I use, but most of all, it's just the peace of the spirit and the peace of God. Because without that, then I still pop off.
Hmm.
I've been working on that for a long time, man. Like right now, if the right person caught me at the right time, like I'd probably be out there in the streets with them,
Hmm.
knuckling up.
Yeah.
Um, but God has continuously shown me, and He's continuously to give me peace and self control, the fruits of the spirit. And it's not till I was able to, like, when I try to do it, like, all right, Joel, come on, like, I'll have my good times, but I'm going to just buckle. And so now it's more of a, like, all right, God, just, hey, man, chill out kind of
Hmm.
thing. So mental health, I'm a huge advocate. I've done a lot of research on all kinds of different things. And what I did was develop, a system in order to get more dopamine, to get more serotonin, all those type of things that where they say we have the lack, whether it's working out or learning new things, playing a musical instrument, creating some type of art, meditating, yoga, um, everything I can possibly do. Obviously, reading the Bible, worship, all those types of things. That's what I do for my mental health. That's how I've kept it together. And the times that I haven't, I've been in depression and misery, but I'll wake up the next day and today's a new day. I give my prayer and, ask God for the strength, the hope, the joy. And he's been performing a lot better for me lately. And I'm very, very grateful for it. But we're all in the flesh. We all have this in nature.
Yep,
So
for
it's
sure.
just something that I'm learning, like, all right, just keep making progress. I don't have to be perfect. That was the thing. Like, I always felt like I had to be perfect. That's why I didn't want to tell, like, man, I can't go be a preacher because as soon as, something goes wrong and the old Joel comes out a little bit, they're gonna be like, man, what's that?
I tell
That dude
you're
just
like,
about,
I knew he had that in him. Yeah, I knew.
yeah, man. So it was
But
crazy. Like,
actually,
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, but actually, that's actually what resonates the most, and then that actually has the ability to bring people closer to God.
Amen.
Is this level of imperfection and challenges that you've seen and you've kind of gone through, right? Because what people do all the time is they hide, right? And also too, it's a bad stigma of wanting to appear perfect, right? So I don't have that,
Amen.
I'm imperfect, but I'm renewed by the Spirit, right?
Mine
So I
wasn't
could
so
talk
much
about
of
it.
like a fear for other people to see me do
Correct,
wrong. Mine
correct,
was a fear for like me to do wrong for God. Like I done messed up. So I don't really care
correct.
about other people what they think. I
Yeah,
could have a booger on my nose, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Um but yeah, I feel you on that.
No, for sure, for sure, for sure. So, how would you say you used all of these challenges and harness all of these challenges in, what you do professionally?
Man, I guess I've been through it so much. I've been in door-to-door sales for 17 years, 18 years, whatever. So I'm used to the roller coaster, so to speak. But at the end of the day, it's all about, focus, intensity, and discipline. Um, whatever different person has to do to get themselves in a mental right mind state to go perform. So what I do that's sales, probably with a lot of people maybe that's watching this type of thing, probably some type of sales or entrepreneurship. So it's like you can either sit there and be depressed and sit where you're at, or you can go make something happen. You know what I mean? You could either stay in the state you're in, or you can get moving. You could start thinking different. You could tell yourself a different story. Getting the word, worship. One thing that really helps me is just the worship in the morning time. Like if I ain't got any good worship and I'm not focused, then it's very easy for me to be distracted. It's very easy for me to go into anger or depressing thoughts. So worship in the morning, and then just the all the subliminal things that we tell ourselves about ourselves. We have to be very conscious of the self-talk. I can't be saying, dude, you suck, you're a dummy, stuff like that. Like you gotta,
Hmm.
it's keep going. It's like you
Yep,
got this.
yep.
Whenever I hear Gracie, the evil be telling me your baby's gonna die, and I'm like, she's gonna live.
Hmm.
So it's just a continuous fight, and then understanding that all I can control is my attitude, and my effort, and my sales pitch.
Hmm.
So everything outside of that is a lot of luck. It's a lot of timing. You know what I mean?
Yep,
But if I'm putting in my grind and following, what I do best, following my sales process, then I'm eventually going to win.
yep.
Um, so the struggles for me, it means something as far as like I'm not worried about like, dude, my money gets funny. I'm not worried about it. Look at what I just went through. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Yep. It puts
whatever.
things
Like
into perspective, right?
I lose a sale, so what? You know what I mean? Big deal. To me, it's either win or learn. And these are
Hmm.
all things that I've been taught from, and I had the worst negative mindset as far as I'm a victim and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. It was an airplane passing by, so.
So basically, man, it's just all about trying to be consistent and then being self-aware. Like you have to be aware of where you're at mentally. So like right before this, like I almost said, "Nah, man, I don't want to do this," because I had somebody saying some stuff online I really didn't like, and some mean stuff that wasn't appropriate and that was way out of out of it was a reason for me to be angry,
Yeah.
um, and I just said, man, are you going to let yourself allow this anger to mess up what you might be doing for God? Like, this isn't about you, dude. And
Hmm.
so I was like, all right, well, God, I'm going to do it, even though I don't feel like doing it, even though I don't really feel like my emotional state is in the proper place to
Yeah.
do it right now. I'm going to just do it anyways. So I took deep breaths, I focused, and then for me, I guess that I've been performing so long on the sales side, like as soon as a door opens or
Hmm.
somebody picks up the phone, it
You
boom.
turn on. Yeah.
So and that's just a blessing from God to be able to do that. So I would say the biggest thing that a lot of people, if you're in an entrepreneur world, the biggest thing you have to do is be able to separate yourself from your personal life, so to speak. Separate yourself from your problems and focus in on being the person that you need to be while you're working. And to me, it's just the strength in Jesus. So every time that I'm able to overcome my depression, my anger, all my flesh, then it's all Jesus in me. So even though he's working through me, I feel like he's doing it. It's still my choice to be like to make that choice, to take that first step. And then whenever I take the first step to change it, I realize and be self-aware, man, I'm really negative. I don't feel good. God, please help me. And I'm gonna take that first step. And then I feel the Holy Spirit. That's why I'm able to flip that switch. Because he does it for me. Um, and that's all I could tell you, man, is just to stay focused on what's important. And then when you get in your day, whenever you get tired or it's the end of the week, you got to tell yourself this is where it counts. Just like working out, like whenever it gets hard and my muscles start burning and I feel like I can't take any more, like that is the most part that counts.
Hmm.
So whatever we're going through, that's what tells me. So Gracie, my baby Gracie, right now, she didn't quit. I had this very inconsiderate dude tell me, man, your baby's suffering, man. Somebody has to tell you. You got to think about what you're doing. She's suffering. Nobody else wants to tell you, but I'm going to tell you, like, if I should put her down or something, like if
Hmm.
she's a dog.
Yeah.
And so it just shows me, like, I want to be the vessel to be able to show, man, we don't quit. And if you
Yeah.
believe in Jesus, he'll keep you going and he'll get you through the other side. So
Hmm.
the biggest thing I take from it is just simply not quitting.
Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is characteristics or attributes of a great entrepreneur?
A great entrepreneur is going to be number one, most resourceful. Just because you're the hardest person in the room, don't mean you're getting the best results. So, being very resourceful to whether it's, being able to gather leads through some technique where you don't have to spend hours cold calling or using AI or getting mentors to teach you things to where you can put yourself on a fast track to learn from their mistakes instead of having to go through all the bumps and bruises as well. Sorry, ask that question one more time again.
No, characteristics of an
Characteristic.
entrepreneur. Hmm.
So number one, be resourceful. Number two, be resilient. Like you got to have tough skin. You're gonna take L's. You're gonna take bumps and bruises. Number three is to be solution minded. You're always gonna have problems. So whatever problem you have, just find a solution. Don't cry about it. Um, Number four is believing in providing a great service, like it meaning something to you, to where whatever you're offering, it's worth it because you're providing a great service or a great product. um, Number five is treating the other people how you want to be treated.
Correct.
If you're going to build a business or scale up whatsoever, I mean, even if you're by yourself, your customers, like your customer service is bad, that's going to trickle down to bad reviews. But treating any type of team member, treating them how you want to be treated. So if you have a new sales guy coming on your team that's starting from the bottom, you got to remember what it's like to start there. Um, and probably I would say um, being able to track being able to track your performances, and your accounting side of everything. Being able to track your performances and set your goals to where you can scale up or you can see where you're going wrong. Those are probably the biggest things. And just not being scared, man. Not being scared, not giving in to fear. because a lot of
For sure.
times where a lot of people mess up is they're thinking so much that they never stick to the thing that and never go after what it was because they're going left, they're going right, they're not sticking to what they need to be doing. So just a lot of over.
Or be so fearful that they're frozen in place, right?
Yep. They
Yep.
just don't know what to do. And it's indecision is one of our biggest enemies. Indecision and fear. So at the end of the day, it's like just pick up the phone and make the call. Just start writing the book. Just start, and then whenever you're going to make mistakes and just learn from them.
Yeah, and one of the things that I talk about in my coaching program is, take messy action, right? Or do it scared, right? Absolutely do it scared, right? And it's hard for people to kind of get past the first hurdle, but it's absolutely necessary because nothing else, nothing good is going to happen until you start doing the actions, right?
Amen.
So one of the things and one of the questions we ask everybody that comes on here is what would you say is your best lessons learned from life and in business?
Best lessons learned in life and in business. Just because your plan changes doesn't mean that God's does.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't expect other people to have the same heart that you have, but don't condemn them for not having it. Um, and always try to outperform yourself. Always focus on what you're doing right, not the competition.
No, for sure. I think that's definitely some, great, beautiful nuggets. Just want to say thank you for coming on, being so transparent, sharing your story, sharing your testimony, sharing your challenges that you've kind of had to overcome. I think there's just so much, fruit here for someone that can resonate with your story for sure. I could see it and I could know it. So just wanted to say thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you having me, man.
No problem. So thank you for joining us with the Pro Design Builder podcast. It's not just about building a business, it's about building a vision and a life by design.
Amen.